Right then, Ferrari 458 Speciale versus Porsche 911 GT3 versus McLaren 650S at Castle Combe with full data logging equipment, a fastest lap time to establish, and a general dust-up to be had by all. Should be a pretty decent day out. Porsche is unquestionably the bargain of the group at just £100,000, with the Ferrari the most expensive at over £200,000. So although the GT3 is heaviest and the least powerful, we can forgive it for lacking a bit in the pure horsepower stakes. Besides, the GT3 is a complete weapon on the track. We know that much already, so it was never going to get thumped by either of the other two here, even if it does cost half the price of them both. The McLaren is the most powerful with a whopping 641 bhp, but the Ferrari is a touch lighter at 1395 kilograms. All three are fitted with track-orientated tyres, those on the GT3 being Michelin Pilot Supersports, with the McLaren and Ferrari both using Pirelli P0 Corsas, so no real tyre advantage for any of them. They each also boast 7-speed dual-clutch gearboxes, carbon ceramic brake discs, and ultra-supportive sport seats. So once again it's the GT3 that would appear to offer the most value.
So I've asked the lads up front basically to drive as fast as they possibly can. Let's just see if I can stay with them in the Ferrari. I'm bloody well hoping that I can. Yes, I can. Wow. The front end on this thing, the front end on the Speciale is absolutely extraordinary. It just feels so pinned. The acceleration is pretty tiny as well. And obviously you can hear the noise. I mean, I've got to be honest, I'm not actually having to try that hard stay with them. Just huge turning, really good traction as well. I've got it in CT off, I haven't got it in CST off. There's just a few little damp patches. Straight line, let's see. Amazingly, the GT3 is kind of the underdog of this group, which is just bonkers considering what an awesome piece of kit it is. But I don't know, it's such a track car. You do wonder whether it might just take care of them both. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drive it as fast as I flipping can, basically. See where we end up. Oh, little bit of a gap, but then the Porsche is absolutely mighty under brakes. Little bit of understeer, little bit of movement at the back, which we don't really want. It's funny though with the Porsche, because there is this movement at both ends, but you just have to kind of put up with it and manage it. That is what driving quick 911, any 911 is all about ultimately. Just kind of managing the weight. I mean, it goes through there at some flipping lick, I tell you. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. I'm not sure whether the McLaren is going to be able to stay with the GT3. It should be able to, because it should be that much faster in a straight line, you know. But I don't think the McLaren can stop as well as the GT3, and it does have this little bit of understeer there. Yeah, the torque of the McLaren is pretty severe actually. The front end is not as good as the Ferrari and not as good as the Porsches. I don't think it stops as well as either of them. And I've just got understeer there, I cannot get back on the throttle, but once you can actually get on the throttle, huge great gob of oversteer there, which I really didn't want. But I mean, as soon as you get it pointing in a straight line, that is awesome. The way it can catch the Porsche in a straight line is kind of rude actually. The Ferrari is definitely the quicker car here, definitely. I reckon I could have gone past them both then. The way it hangs on there is brilliant. Gearbox is just awesome as well. Wow. I have to say, pretty much everything that the Speciale does is just exceptional. It really is. It's so exciting to drive as well. Ha ha ha! Mega brakes, really are mega brakes on this car. It's a Porsche, you know, and of course just crazy traction. I mean, it's a little bit of a wrestling match, but it does roll on this thing. Love the way it settles into this corner. There's understeer in the slow corners, but not in the quicker ones. Not like that. I mean, I'm driving this thing about as quickly as I'd be comfortable to drive a road car on the track. It's not putting much air between the Ferrari and the McLaren, I have to say. He's a proper tool though. It's a bit of a mixed bag, the 650S. It's doing some things, I mean the motor is immense, the gearbox is very good too. But there's just this moment that you have to wait. You have to be really quite patient with the throttle. And I really, if it couldn't eat the Porsche in a straight line, I think the 911 would be way quicker around here. I don't know if you can notice, but my voice is kind of a fair bit more subdued in this than it was in the Porsche or Ferrari. I mean, it's really good fun. It's very, very fast. See, that is the difference. I have just blown past the Porsche in a straight line. That is outrageously rude. I kind of think that's kind of point proven, isn't it, really? Wow, it's really interesting. The McLaren is, I mean, it's a fantastically exciting car. But it ain't as exciting as the Ferrari or the Porsche. There's just this thing about the Ferrari just sets your hair on fire. The Porsche kind of makes your heart beat really fast with kind of sheer dynamic ability, and it's really exciting as well, actually. The McLaren just feels calmer. It makes you feel calmer behind the wheel. You don't feel as close to the edge in the McLaren as you do in the other two, but it's definitely not as thrilling. It's definitely not as exciting, and it understeers too much. Still a heck of a car though.
Even though the GT3 struggled slightly beside the supercars on the very fastest parts of the lap, it could still keep them in sight when we took to the track in all three, and for pure traction, it easily beat them both. But in the end, the Ferrari's extra horsepower and its comparative lack of weight was what mattered the most. The McLaren was impressive, yes, and was the fastest of the lot in a straight line, but even it couldn't quite deal with the extraordinary 458 Speciale in the end. Not for feel, not for precision, and not against the stopwatch either. The lap times, therefore, put the 458 first exactly 1 second ahead of the McLaren, with the GT3 third but only a mere 0.2 slower than the 650S. So overall victory went to the Ferrari, yes, with the GT3 quite clearly the bargain of the century, being only 1.2 seconds slower and £108,000 cheaper, with the still excellent McLaren somewhere in between the two. A decent day out indeed.